It has all of the qualities that you want in something to hold your value in. Okay. So you could buy real estate and then you have to fix the roof every 25 years or whatever. You can buy real estate and you have to remodel your outdated kitchen. You can buy real estate and it's a great hedge against assets, and the government gives you some incentives to own it.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's podcast, we welcome back Mark Yegge, the wealth architect. He's a lifelong learner, author, course creator, mentor, and fund manager. He's traded over 14 billion with a B worth of securities. Using his experience and expertise, Mark is on a mission to change the way we invest. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Great to be here. I'm telling you, it's been too long, but great to be here. And I'm looking forward to bringing whatever kind of value I can for your audience. That's always fun for me.
Yeah, well, if you're listening for the first time with Mark and I encourage you to check out episode 169. Mark was on the show. We talked a lot about his mastermind, some of the courses and his strategies that he uses to be successful and make money in the stock market. Also talked a lot about how similar we are in our strategies and philosophies on life and using money as a vehicle, for freedom and really helping others achieve their true potential in this world. But Mark, for those that are hearing you for the first time, maybe give us a little intro here, a little bit about your background and your business.
Well, I could go, the older you get, the longer your intro gets. So I'm going to try to keep it really short, but I've got almost 5 decades of experience in money, from being a kid, taking my lawn mowing and pool cleaning money to investing in the stock market and buying my first car with that, all the way to advising multi-millionaire people on how to invest their money and running hedge funds. And now I teach people how they can do it if they want to be in a hedge fund, if they want to run their money like a hedge fund, or they want to create income, next level income, let's call it. If they want to do that, then I teach them how to do that, and I create course masterminds around that. The rest of the stuff will come out as we talk, right?
No, absolutely. And that's one thing, and one of the reasons I love having you on is because what we try to do is help others not only achieve financial independence, but learn the secrets of the wealthy and how, endowments do it, institutions do it, hedge funds do it, family offices do it. We just talked about the last episode, utilizing cash value life insurance and some of these strategies that like the Rockefellers have used. So what's your core strategy, Mark? I know we were talking a little bit before the show. What are some of the core strategies that you utilize to do that?
Well, I try to have just a couple because, I'd rather be a master of just a few of the things rather than jack of all trades, although I'm pretty much the jack of all trades. When it comes to money, I'm passionate about buying stocks and selling call options against them and creating income and creating cash flow. And that's really, I have my program called the Cash Flow Machine, because I believe cash flow is so important, whether you're in business or whether you're investing in the market. Most people, what they do is they buy something. They buy a stock, they buy a vacant lot, they buy a house, and they just wait for time to bring it up. The problem with that is time doesn't really do anything for you except decrease the value of the dollar. And when you decrease the denominator, you increase the numerator. So you're not really getting ahead. What I mean is, if the value of the dollar goes down, in other words, you can't buy as many things now as you could 10 years ago with the same $100. And we all know that's true with the inflation we've had over the last several years. Then what is true is the dollar has gone down. The value of the egg hasn't gone up. It's still a white thing with a yellow thing in the middle and a shell around it. The value of the house hasn't gone up. In fact, it's probably gone down a little bit with depreciation in the roof and the HVAC system. And so you're generally losing money if you just sit there. And so I did a study a few months ago, me and my friend ChatGPT, and we studied the value of things now versus the value of the things 4.5 years ago. And we found that the information that we're getting fed by the government, by the authorities that we trust, that's a mistake to trust authorities. You have to do your own work, and now we have tools to do it. We went back and studied what were the prices of things in 2020 and 2019.
Yeah.
And we found that inflation is not increased by 2% or 3%, as we all know. It's 11.1%, according to my study,
Yeah.
which tells you this.
You
If
mean,
you don't
is that
make 11,
annualized? Is that annualized?
that's per year.
Yeah, that's per year. Yeah, because I was going to say last I checked, over the last 3 years, it's about 25%. It sounds like it's even higher than that from what you
Well,
found.
according to me, I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
factor in things like rent and mortgage.
yep,
I
yep,
factor in things like the cost of a car,
yeah,
the cost of
yeah,
gas, the cost of food.
yeah.
Mignon used to be
11% a year, amazing. Yeah,
11.1% a
yeah,
year. So what that means is if you don't make 11.1% a year in your investments, and we can argue about the, you can say it's 12, you could say it's 8, whatever it is.
yeah.
If you don't make at least the amount of inflation, you're not even getting ahead. You're not even staying even. You're going backward.
Yeah, just
So
treading water in a
11.1
river. Yeah,
becomes the new zero. And so now you've got to make, if you want to grow your money 8%, you got to make 19.1%. And so that's the thing is that, financial education is so important, like you talk about on your show. We've got to show people, look, if you take your money to a financial planner, and I used to be one, so I can talk about this, and you say, here's my $1 million, invest it for me. I give up my power to you. He's going to put you in a portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. He's going to get you 8%, and he's going to take 3.4% off the top. And everybody got their hand out, and they get paid whether you make money or not. And that's not even close to 11%. So that's why I want to start the concept there. And so I have strategies called the cash flow machine where you buy certain stocks and you sell other people the option to buy that stock from you at a predetermined price before a predetermined date. And we make, our goal is 2 to 4%. And that's kind of what we make. We try to be conservative.
2 to 4% per month.
Per month.
Yeah, like it. Yeah.
And that's in income.
Right.
So income. So if you structure your portfolio right, you can create a portfolio of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in income and leave the principal there to keep growing the account because that's a lot higher than 11%. So, my financial planning background says, Mark, you can't be talking about people making 2 to 4% a month, but I've been doing it for years and years and years. And I teach people how to do it. Do the accounts always go up 2 to 4% a month? No, but the income always comes in because we're selling covered calls. And so It works. It just works.
So let's talk about that real quick. So you said the account doesn't always go up, but the income keeps coming in. And I think that's important because we've seen a lot of assets here in the past couple of years with rates going up and different things underperform. And fortunately, if people have diversified portfolios, stock market's been on a great run, especially as we're recording this here since the election, people seem to like. The stock market sure seems to like the choice that the people made here in the United States.
Yep.
And this is important. I talk about bonds or different things. If you buy a bond, even if the price of that bond goes up and down, which I think a lot of people don't fully appreciate, if you hold it to duration, you're going to get your money back and you have gotten that income the entire time. So what you're talking about is that if you own that stock, you sell a call, you sell an option to somebody to create that income. So you can keep that income coming in on a consistent basis, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And I use a lot of analogies because sometimes intangible financial assets are hard for people to wrap their brains around. So, one of the analogies that I use is a real estate analogy. So let's say you buy a house for $300,000 and you want to rent it out to people to make income. Okay. Are you going to be going to Zillow every day and checking the value of that house? No, you're going to buy the house. You're going to collect your $3,000 a month tenant. As long as the tenant stays there, you're happy, you're making your cash flow. The value of the house is going up and down with the market, and you're not looking at it every day. The problem is it's really easy to look at liquid assets like stocks and people fixate on them and they're like, oh my God, I'm down today. Oh no, I'm up. That's great.
Yeah.
But if we focus,
it can drive you crazy.
I call the juice in my program. We focus on the juice always comes in because we're always selling calls to the gambler out there. So I have another analogy to kind of explain a little bit about what I do. If you walk in to a casino with $5,000 in your pocket, who's got the advantage, you or the casino?
If it's in my pocket, I have the advantage.
Well, I guess you do because you don't have to invest. But let's say you're going to invest or spend that $5,000, you're going to put it down on the table. Now who has the advantage?
The casino based on
The
the odds.
casino has
Yeah.
they have a small edge. They have
Yeah.
it's small enough to keep you interested
Yeah.
and entertained, but it's big enough that they put up these beautiful buildings and employ all these people. So they have the advantage. Now, if you're investing, you want to be the house, be sitting on the other side of the table from the gambler. What they do is they fill you up with drinks, lots of pretty girls walking around, lots of excitement happening. They get rid of the clocks. They make you tired. And then when you make emotional decisions, you make really poor ones. And so we want to be the house in what we do. So what we do is buy a stock, like buying a house on Zillow or buying a house. And then what we do is we find somebody to rent that option against that house. So we rent the opportunity to buy our asset.
Yeah.
Let's call it Amazon. So somebody buys 1,000 shares of Amazon. Then they find somebody that wants that Amazon, and they say, well, I'll give you an option to buy my Amazon for $10 higher than it is today in the next 20 days, 30 days, 10 days, whatever it is. And that person goes, great. I don't have the $1,000 times 1,000 shares times the price of the Amazon stock, but I can buy the option to buy it so that if it goes way up, I make a bunch of. Well, that person who buys the option is at a disadvantage. He's the person that walks into the casino.
Yeah.
The person that sells the option says, I have an asset. You can have this asset, but if it doesn't go up to that certain price, I keep your money. And so that's what covered calls.
That's a great analogy.
Make sense?
I think that's a great analogy, and it's the same because I can hear people saying, "Yeah, but Mark, if that guy gets to buy that, he's going to make a lot of money." Well, yeah, sure. And sometimes you walk into the casino and you put $1,000 down and you win big.
Yep.
But more often than not, to your point, the house is going to win.
The longer you sit there, the more chance the house has of winning. You're right.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here. I was just pulling some stuff up here. So I'm always looking at the market valuations as I evaluate my portfolio, and the Buffett indicator, the PE model, interest rate model, S&P reversion, everything, all these say like overvalued. The market's overvalued. The market's overvalued. The market's overvalued. How can this strategy protect you as an investor if you're looking at the market today and say, hey, like I love the momentum, I love where the country's going, I have a lot of faith in this, but there's a lot of uncertainty out there right now, and the market might be overpriced. Does this strategy still work in markets like this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a lot of decades now, and I always hear the same things. The market's overvalued. I mean, nobody ever says the market's undervalued, ever. When the market's crashing, people are like, oh my God, it's going to go way lower. They never say it's undervalued. Yeah. But when it's up at these prices, these levels, and remember, the denominator is going down. So it means that our debt is going up in this country.
Yes.
That means our buying power is, so the value is popping up based on optimism. Based on the denominator going down, the value of the dollar going down, but also based on now some of these companies are going to have some unregulation, some deregulation.
Oh yeah.
And there is a lot of opportunity. So I'll give you a story. I have somebody in my mastermind group who 3 years ago, she's been in for 5 years, but 3 years ago decided the market was overvalued. It's crazy. This presidency is terrible, and we were at war and whatever. And talked herself into getting out of the market. So she went to cash and put all of her money into a CD. And at that time, CDs were starting to come up. So she got maybe 4 or 5%. Yeah. She has been sitting on the sidelines for 3 years. I said, listen, you can't predict the market. You are not Nostradamus. I'm not either. And I sit in front of charts every day. I said, the bottom line is because the dollar is going down, the market tends to go up. And I said, you're going to miss out on 10, 20% a year, which is in fact what's happened over the last several years. So to answer your question, the markets are generally moving up. Yes, of course, there's times where they pull back, but there are ways to structure this where you sell out of the money calls to give yourself some upside potential if the market continues to go up. For example, a stock like Tesla, which I'm heavily in, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. One of my son's favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at what they're doing. They're doing amazing things with robots and cars that drive themselves, and insurance and battery technology. Let alone the number one EV car in the world and the number one selling electric truck already. Yeah. But you give that stock maybe some upside potential depending on what the market is doing, and then sometimes when the market is showing you signs that it's going to go revert to the mean, like you mentioned, mean reversion, then you sell deep in the money call. and you give yourself protection of what's called the intrinsic value, the in the money amount. So you get a cushion if the stock comes back. And if it doesn't, if it keeps going up, you still make a little bit of juice, which gives you that 2 to 4% a month that we're going for.
You can hedge yourself a little bit depending
exactly
on those sorts of things.
Exactly. And that's what hedge funds do every single day. They just don't tell us how to do it. I'm teaching people how to do it. That's what they
do. Yeah. And that's, I think a lot of times people look at hedge funds and their performance and they say, oh, the market's up, the hedge funds, below where the market is, but the hedge funds are designed to sometimes zig when the market zags.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I've had a bit of a zig last year, and it doesn't. If you measure it every day, if you look at your Zillow every day, you might make some stupid decisions. If you look at it over time, you see that outperformance does happen. As long as you're in good quality companies. A lot of people do great strategies on stupid companies. And that makes them a stupid investor. If you do a good strategy on a good company, at least you're getting the probabilities in your favor. And that's what I preach, right?
Yeah, I know we were talking about Amazon last time you were on, and this time Tesla. And like you said, there's all these amazing things that the company is doing. And doing that. So I think that's a great point that people can learn in your course and your masterminds when it comes to these strategies for sure. You brought up a couple times inflation, and one of the reasons that I and the audience here loves real estate is because it's a great inflation hedge. One of my other favorite assets, which I know we touched on briefly before we started recording today, is Bitcoin, and I just wrote a piece on that and some of the things that I follow. Let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin, Mark. What you've learned about it, how you see it as a part of the portfolio, because I know it's been I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the best performing asset over the last decade or 15 years. The Bitcoin ETFs have now taken off. As we're recording this, MicroStrategy, MicroStrategy CEO explained that they're going to continue to increase their holdings. Michael Saylor. Trump just said that they're going to add 1 million Bitcoin to a national Bitcoin strategic reserve. Who is the state? There's another state that just announced that they're going to also have a Bitcoin reserve. Countries are making it legal currency. Lots of great tailwinds. Anything you'd like to add to that? Are you a high-income business owner or professional earning $200,000, $300,000 or even more a year, but still feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck? Are you comfortable working until you're 65 or 70 to retire? Or do you want to achieve financial independence and live life on your own terms? You could join myself and Matt Four and learn how we both became financially independent in our early 30s. We will teach you how to make, keep, and grow your money, teaching you strategies to maximize your earnings. Keep your income that you've earned through tax strategy and legal structures, and ultimately teach you how to grow it by determining your personal investing strategy, as well as teach you how to analyze investments so you can grow your passive income to the point to live life on your own terms. Our coaching clients reliably do this in 7 years or less. To learn more, check out our coaching program at nextlevelincome.com/coaching. That's nextlevelincome.com/coaching.
Oh, I could talk for an hour. I don't want to bore your people because I'm a major orange pilled Bitcoin maximalist, and just to kind of educate everybody a little bit about, people are like, oh, Bitcoin is risky, blah blah blah. I've heard all this stuff. I've been in Bitcoin for about 3.5 years. I certainly didn't catch the beginning. It would have been a better ride if I got the beginning, but I'm not sure I would have stayed in it. But if you really want to understand the future of money, if you spend, like Michael Saylor says this all the time, he's going to be I think he's going to be one of the top 2 people in the world in a couple of years. You can bookmark this podcast. But he has financially engineered his company, MicroStrategy, to take advantage of Bitcoin's appreciation. So let's go back up for a second. Yes. Bitcoin has all of the qualities that you want in money. It has all of the qualities that you want in currency, and the two are different. It has all of the qualities that you want in something to hold your value in. Okay. So you could buy real estate and then you have to fix the roof every 25 years or whatever. You can buy real estate and you have to remodel your outdated kitchen. You can buy real estate, and it's a great hedge against assets, and the government gives you some incentives to own it. No doubt about that. And I think real estate plays a big part in every portfolio. At the same time, you should have something that is a pure hedge for inflation. So we can have the argument about whether Bitcoin's going to be used as currency, like the dollar is used as currency. I still think there's a place for the dollar. I
Yeah.
still think there's a place for gold. I still think there's a place for real estate. But I think if you look at the qualities of Bitcoin, you start to realize there's a major place for that asset in your portfolio. And I've been buying it for 3.5 years, from 15,000 to where it is now at 93,000 today. And people have been laughing at me the whole time, which is fine. I'm trying to convince people.
Not hearing it from this side of the screen, though.
What?
I'm laughing with you, not at you. I'll tell you that.
Okay, I'm laughing near me. But yeah. So, 3 years ago, I heard about this president who had gotten elected in El Salvador, and his name is Nayib Bukele, and he got elected. He got orange pilled by this guy named Max Kaiser. Max Kaiser's been buying Bitcoin for almost since Bitcoin's inception, and so nobody knows how much Bitcoin Max Kaiser has, but it's probably a lot. He doesn't disclose it, but it's a lot. And so he went to move down to this beautiful country that nobody's ever heard of because it's the middle of Central America, and they got this new, young, cool president, right? Like, he wears his hat backwards and stuff like that. And this guy said, we're going to take this beach called El Zonte and we're going to turn it into a little microcosm and call it Bitcoin Beach. And everybody has to accept Bitcoin on the beach. They tried it as an experiment. And these vendors on the beach and these restaurateurs and hotel people all started to accept Bitcoin, and it worked. And so he said, we're making our entire country Bitcoin. Well, that was the beginning of this revolution. Now they have Bitcoin bonds and Bitcoin city. And the country is actually, I think it's going to be the Monaco of what we have in, what they have in Europe, we're going to have in Central America. Yeah. I went down there because I have a Bitcoin hedge fund. Yeah. And I, on behalf of my investors, I'm like, I got to go and see what's going on down there. And I was, I'd walk down the street. There's a couple of surfers there. Nobody's around. Yeah. And then you have this little old Spanish lady selling, pupusas on the beach with this little cart. There's no generator. There's just a little flame coming out of it where she makes them. So and then you want to go pay for a pupusa for $1. She pulls out her phone, gives you a QR code, and in 2 seconds, you've transacted using Bitcoin. And I was like, this could be the future. And we see it here because, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a bank here, right? Yeah. But in other countries around the world, they don't have banks like we do. No. But now you've got a $50
or stable currency for that matter.
Or a stable currency. Yeah. Yeah. But if you've got that phone, you can put the stable currency on the phone. You can get paid and not have a bank around you for miles. And on a Saturday afternoon, you want to send some money to somebody, you can do it. We can't do that here. You want to wire money to somebody on a Saturday afternoon? It's not going to happen. But you can transact $1 million worth of Bitcoin on Sunday
any time of day. Yeah, it's amazing. And if you're listening, you want to learn more about that, look up Bob Burnett, look up Bitcoin Bob's episodes here on the Next Level Income Show. He talks about he actually consulted with El Salvador as they set that up. So
nice.
Yeah, I'll have to connect you guys at some point. Bob's great guy, very interesting. And I think he bleeds orange, Mark. I really do. Because that guy is a true believer. And I think it's, one of the things that's exciting to me is what you just described. A lot of the story is really the ability to, not only transact, but also create freedom, freedom to move, freedom to move around the world, freedom to, spend and start businesses, which I know is one of the reasons that, some of the governments around the world don't like relinquishing that control. But I believe like you, in that you can have this currency it's a tremendous hedge against inflation, like precious metals, but it's digital, and it can also be the backbone to a stable currency like USD or something like that can go. Can you use your strategy with Bitcoin?
Well, it's funny because a couple of years ago when I started the fund, I don't know how deep we'll go, but I was invested in a company called FTX.
Yeah.
Was my exchange to do my well, funny story here is I had my hedge fund in it. And then there's a saying in the Bitcoin world, not your keys, not your coins, right? So if you don't, if you have your money on somebody else's exchange, they basically have the control of your coins because they have your keys, like your keys to your car.
Yeah.
And so I had this weird feeling. I was hearing these things about this guy, Sam Bankman-Fried. I woke up in the middle of the night on a Sunday night, I
SPF,
think
yeah.
it was, and I was like, I need to get my Bitcoin off of this exchange. And I moved
Wow.
it to the exchange. I moved
Yeah.
it from the exchange into a thumb drive,
Yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah.
These Ledger thumb drives.
Yeah.
And the next day, FTX declared bankruptcy,
The next
and
day.
it was the next day. Yeah,
Oh
I
wow.
was
You
so
got it. You got
fortunate.
a little download from somebody
I
up
got
top, huh?
something because it
Yeah.
was really the next day. I couldn't believe it,
Wow.
and I was doing a podcast with Natalie Burnell a couple of days, like around that period of time,
Wow.
and it was I remember it all it was divine. But
Yeah.
anyway, they had a sister exchange or something else called
Hmm.
FTX US. It really wasn't
Yeah.
related, but they
Yeah.
stole the name or something,
Hmm.
and they had the ability to trade options. And I traded a couple of options at that time. And basically, I would have my Bitcoin and then I was just selling somebody else
Yeah.
the option to take my Bitcoin from me.
Yeah.
I remember right, it was a $40,000 at the time per coin. And I was selling the $42,000 Bitcoin. And I was making, gosh, I can't remember. I think I was making about $1,000 a week on it.
Solid. Yeah.
Just on
Yeah.
per
Yeah.
per coin.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. And then I decided, I'm getting it off the exchange, and I'm putting it in safe places around the world so that
Yeah.
it's not affected, and it's too
Yeah.
much money to have.
Well, I'm glad that happened. Yeah, it's a crazy story. If you haven't read about FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, it's crazy. I'm waiting for I don't think Michael Lewis has written a book on it yet. He's one of my favorite
He shadowed
authors.
Brankman Fried though for a long time, I think.
Did he? Maybe he did, and maybe he did. I'll have to go look and see.
Yeah, he's a
Um,
great author.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna pull that up right now. So I'm gonna go down a little rabbit hole, a little conspiracy theory.
All right,
Um,
cool.
and I wonder, with everything that's been going on in the Ukraine and the fact that Sam Bankman-Fried was the second biggest Democratic donor and his parents tied into that. I wonder if Ukraine and FTX were just one big money laundering operation tied into something like Act Blue around the country. That's my theory. So
Oh, there's a
uh,
lot of weird stuff going on in
yeah,
Ukraine, and
yeah,
even if you go back to the Trump impeachment before that, I
yeah,
mean, Biden was bragging about the fact that he was bullying the
yeah,
minister or whatever in Ukraine to not look into
yeah,
his
yeah,
son, and it's just a lot of
yeah,
where most people in the United States can't pick out this country on a map. And here we are sending him a couple $100 billion,
yeah,
and there's all this corruption and weird stuff, and a comedian running the country. And
yeah.
I
Literally,
wouldn't
comedian. Yeah, it's fine.
he's a comedian. I would be
Yeah,
I wouldn't be opposed to your conspiracy theory. I think there might be something there.
I do wonder. And you know what? I did read Michael Lewis's book. I did read it. That's why I was like, it came out last year. Going
Yeah,
Infinite, I think was the
I
name of
didn't
it.
read.
But yeah, it's that is so that's one of the things. It's you have something that is anonymous but secure, like Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies. It'd be interesting to see what was really going on behind the curtain. But tying
Definitely.
this back in, so getting off the kind of conspiracy theory wagon. To your point, we're sending all this money overseas. Uh, we're spending $1 trillion a year now in interest. Things like Bitcoin. If you're in real estate, if you're in the stock market, I think that Bitcoin, to your point, Mark, can really make a great inflation hedge when it comes to these things as
and
part of
it's
the
and it's
portfolio.
Bitcoin, not crypto, right? Let's
Yeah,
separate the fact that there's Bitcoin and there's everything else, and the difference is Bitcoin has
excellent
scarcity.
point. Yes, excellent
It's that
point.
scarce.
Excellent point. And again, if you want to learn more, check out Bob Burnett's episodes. Um, call him Bitcoin Bob for good reason. So, Mark, one of the things that my younger son's turning 13, and I want to be doing the one of your courses here with him to start teaching him about some of these things because he loves money and loves doing that. I'm sure some listeners are listening, saying, "Hey, I want to learn more about these strategies." Mark, what's the best way for listeners to learn more about what you do, learn about your masterminds, your hedge funds, and what you have going on?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Before I answer the question, I will say
Yeah,
that when I was your kid's age, that's when
yeah,
I was learning this stuff.
yeah. That's so
So
cool.
my dad was in front of the Wall Street Journal, circling companies, and I
Yeah.
would go, "Dad, what are you doing?" He would start teaching me about it, and I'd start putting my money into it. And
Oh,
then I
so
read a
neat.
book called "Beat the Market" by Edward Thorpe, who
Yeah.
was an MIT professor and figured out how to beat how to beat the blackjack game in the casinos in Las Vegas. And then he figured out how to do this market strategy. And I've been a student of that ever since. So that's when I learned it. So I'm happy to hear that your kid wants to learn it, because it could be life-changing if you do it right. And there's a bunch of things you got to learn to do it right. So you want to learn a little bit more. Love to have you. But not just, but you got to be cool. Like, I don't want to teach people that are not cool. Like, my life is moving toward, I want to be I want to be around people that I like. So anyway, go to cashflowmachine.io, and you can poke around there. If you want to go right to the source, you can go to cashflowmachine.io/CC info. CC info. Either way, you're going to get to the stuff that I have. And we have courses, and if you really want to learn how to do this right, you immerse yourself in it, right? It's like anything. You want to learn how to play golf, you can read a book or take a course. But if you go get a coach, have him walk around the course with you, tell you what you're doing wrong in real time, that's how you're really going to learn. So we have mastermind programs that, we get to meet on Friday. We hold each other accountable. We're all speaking the same language. If you're investing with somebody and they don't understand what you're talking about, whether it's life insurance or real estate, it's just hard to relate if you don't know what you're talking about. We have groups where, like, we have this one guy. He's an 82-year-old guy. God bless him. He's awesome. Really cool though.
Yeah.
He got on a couple weeks ago. On Fridays, we have these calls from 12 to about 1, and we're accountable to each other, and we speak the same language. We virtually high five each other too. So, like, if you're doing really well, we're on the call, and we understand that you're doing well, because you can't go tell somebody like this guy did, down the street, you just made $250,000 in the stock market this week. You can't do that. A lot of people would like that.
It's good to keep some stuff a little closer to the vest,
right? Yeah. But in this group, everybody gets it. They're like, I saw the strategy you were doing over the last month. Now you're taking advantage of it. Congratulations. And so we celebrate and we hold each other accountable, which is important, because if you're on your own trading by yourself, you've got really very little accountability. And if you're a little bit weak and you let emotions creep in, it can cost you some money. So we try to avoid all that. Yeah. Anyway, long answer to a short question.
Yeah. No, I love it. And look, I think if you're listening and you are a little bit timid when it comes to the stock market, if you understand some of these more advanced strategies that, Mark, you teach, we're going to put all this information in the show notes here. So again, that's cashflowmachine.io. Already signed up. I'm excited to be working through that with my son, because I want him to learn all about these different strategies and understand. And his goal is to be making enough money so that he can buy a Tesla when he's 16. I told him, hey, maybe have a business that rents that or leases that Tesla for you.
There you go.
And figure that out. So I said, don't spend your money on a car, generate enough income to pay for that car.
Yeah, I love it. That's the Robert Kiyosaki, if I've ever heard it. So one more thing is, if you want to learn this stuff for free, I've got a channel on YouTube that you can go to. I got a channel on Rumble as well, but the YouTube channel is called @CoveredCalls. The @ symbol @Covered Calls. Okay. It'll take you right to my channel. You can watch a couple of videos, see if you like my head yapping at you all day long, and if so, then you can move forward. But that's been a lot of fun teaching.
Wonderful. We'll put that in the show notes as well, Mark. And hey, I'm so glad that you and your family made it through the storm safely. Mark, like me, is in Western Carolina, and we were both very fortunate. So thank you again for joining us here at the Next Level Income Show, Mark. You're going to be coming back. You're going to be a regular on this show, and we'll be talking about how listeners can use all these strategies to increase your income. Thank you.
Can't wait, Chris. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.